Hi folks, welcome to Set Apart Homestead, and thank you for joining. Thank everyone again for your liking videos, watching them, subscribing, sharing. It helps us move along. We're getting pretty close to 3,000 subscribers, which in 3 months' time I'm really shocked and wasn't expecting it. Today I wanted to talk to you about prescription medications. It's something that many people have to take, and what to do during SHTF, or how to plan for that if you take prescription medications, because it's kind of important for many of you that take them. I'll try not to slurp and make too big of a mess. It's a little chilly and damp out here. About a cup of coffee would feel good right by now. So prescription medications, in my mind, and I have taken them in the past for, temporary, and was supposed to have taken them for permanent things, and I ended up not. But they fall under kind of two categories, in my opinion. The ones that keep you alive, that if you did not take them, you probably just wouldn't live. And then there's those prescription medications that make your life better, easier, less pain, capable of, kind of doing more. But if you didn't take them, you'd probably still live. And I'm not downplaying anyone that would, whatever medications you might take. I think that's just kind of the reality. So, do you stock up, and how can you stock up? Is it even possible? Is it worth it? Are they going to last that long? What if it's a long-term down situation? It's an end of the world as we know it, complete apocalyptic type of scenario where everything pretty much changes. Life as we know it does not exist anymore. Can you really prepare for that? Maybe not. There's not a real good answer for what to do about prescription medications, but I did some research and just some of my own thinking and experience, and so I thought I would present those as options to look into. First and foremost, there is a study that's been done by the FDA. You can find it online quite easily. It was commissioned by the Department of Defense on studying the actual shelf life of medications. Medication shelf life, they're on average, usually when a manufacturer makes them and bottles it, they usually put about a 2-year shelf life, on average. And what that means is, it doesn't mean that it's no longer good after that. It means that they can guarantee that the potency of that medication is good until that date. After that date, they no longer will guarantee the potency of the medication, is what that expiration date means. And there are very few medications that, even if they're expired, by several years, become dangerous to take as an expired medication. Usually when a medication starts going bad, they're just losing its potency. Maybe it's 90% effective, 80, 70, 60, and so on. So, it's not like if you take it, you're going to get sick and die. Now, there are a few exceptions to that. So, you need to do your own due diligence, research if you're on a particular medication to find that out. There are some that the chemical composition changes and they become toxic. Not very many, but a few. And then things like antibiotics, they can get weakened, and when you take them, it can actually, build up a resistance. The bacteria that you're trying to, attack with the antibiotic can build a resistance to the antibiotic because you're taking, weak doses. So those are things to consider. But this study found that, the huge majority of the medications that they tested had a shelf life of at least 2 to 5 years beyond their expiration date, and many of them had shelf lives of 20 years where they were still potent enough to be effective, and their standard was 90% potency. It's different for every one of them, and also, of course, the manner in which you store them is going to affect their potency too. So that's something to consider when trying to store up medications long term. Now, the big question is how do you get them? And I'm specifically talking about prescription medications. Sure, you can go out and buy as much, Tylenol and ibuprofen and things like that as you want. But what about prescriptions? Things that you have to have a prescription to get. That's where it gets a little difficult. Most doctors, especially if you talk to them and just be honest that, you don't have to talk about, prepping for the apocalypse, but hey, there's, all these storms that we've been having, and people have, power outages, things like that, and I'd feel real comfortable if I could, get extra prescriptions for this medication so that I could kind of have a little bit of, stockpile in case something happens. Most doctors are pretty cool with that. The problem is that, so getting like a 3-month prescription, 90 days, is pretty doable. In fact, most of them will write that for anything that you're going to be taking, for an extended period of time. It's possible to get them to write a 6-month prescription, maybe. The problem comes in is how to pay for it. If you're using insurance, any type of insurance to get your prescriptions, it's highly, highly unusual and rare that they would cover a prescription for more than 90 days per supply. And then they won't cover another one until you get to at the end of that, or very near the end of that 90-day supply. So if, the only way you can afford your prescriptions, or that you're using, insurance, you're probably not going to be able to get more than 90 days, and creating a stockpile becomes difficult because you can't get any more prescriptions through that insurance until you're near the end of that 90 days. Now, you can always say, well, I'll use my insurance to get as much as I can, and then if my doctor will write me any more prescriptions for it, I'll just pay out of pocket. And of course, that is an option. Unfortunately, as most of you know, especially those that are on prescription medications, some of those prescriptions are very expensive. We couldn't believe it a few weeks ago. It's been a while back, but my son, the one that was on the video the other day, he has an unusual skin allergy, or skin sensitivity. That's what it is. He's very sensitive skin to things. We have to be careful of like what type of soaps and cleaning stuff that we use. And he's been kind of having a, not severe, but a little problem with it. So, took him to the doctor, and the doctors prescribed this cream that you can put on him, which, probably isn't doing any more than the, homemade stuff that I make that with, herbal natural creams. But, we thought, okay, we go to get it filled, and our insurance denied it because of the cost of it. So I was like, okay, well, how much is it? Now, we're talking a tube of about the size of a small tube of toothpaste. $1,000. $1,000 for that little tube of, stuff. And you all know this, especially those of you on medications. So stockpiling prescription medications is extremely difficult to do because of all the laws around it. And of course, you could say, well, there are other ways around that, buying stuff online, crossing the border into another country and getting them. You're going to be on your own on that one. That is illegal to do. In most every case, that is illegal. Now, do they prosecute all those cases? From what I've read, it's very seldom that they prosecute someone that's just getting for themselves. You're not bringing truckloads of it over, then, you're probably not going to get prosecuted, but it is illegal. And so you have to be careful of that, and I cannot advise you in any way to do that kind of stuff. So if you go down that road, you need to be careful. So what do? You can't afford to have a couple of years supply of medication. Maybe you're on heart medication, and you can't afford it without your insurance, and your insurance won't cover more than a 90-day supply. That's a tough one. There aren't really a lot of options. So some of the things to consider that you can, at least evaluate, and this is going to be different for everyone. Are you able to get yourself off of that medication? And this is something I would, talk to your doctor. And then, you could say it like, I'm not necessarily wanting to get myself off of it, but, you know, I kind of worry about things, and let's say something happens and I wasn't able to get this medication. You know, if I stop taking it, is it going to just kill me? Am I going to die because I'm not taking this? You know, you could ask questions like that. If it is something you're able to get off of, then you might consider that now, or at least have plans for that in the future. You can also, I know that's not a good plan. I get it. It's not a good plan. The other thing to consider and to look into is, are there natural ways to treat whatever you're taking medication for? Some cases there are. Not everything that a prescription medication does can be done with, you know, a natural plant-derived, you know, medication. But many can. So I would, you know, look into that. What type of medications you're taking, and are there alternatives, natural alternatives? You know, should you start taking them now to get yourself off the medications? I don't know, but at least know about them so that you can, you know, maybe have those available, that if something happened, that you've at least got this. It may not be as good, but it's better than nothing. It is a dilemma, and it's something that we think about. My second oldest son is type 1 diabetic, you know, the juvenile diabetes, so he's insulin dependent, and it's something that we think about. For insulin, most places, and I believe this is in all 50 states, you do not have to have a prescription to buy insulin, because it's something that many people have to survive, and it's not likely, I don't think, that you're going to abuse it, like sell it. I don't know. I don't think you can get high off of insulin. And Walmart and possibly places like Walgreens and CVS, they have the generic of the little glass bottles for around $25 if you just paid for it. So you could buy that kind of stuff and stockpile it. From what I have read, if it's sealed up, never opened, refrigerated insulin, that it should last between 2 and 5 years, and that is one of those things that when it goes bad, it's just losing its potency. So, you know, if you're supposed to take so many units of insulin and it's starting to get weak, you may have to, you know, take a little bit more to get the effectiveness of it. But then again, you're only talking probably 2 to 5 years worth of supply. What do you do in the long term? Well, that's tough. You know, there's a lot of people say, well, you can make insulin. Yeah, I looked into that. I do not have, you know, a master's degree at minimum in science, in chemistry, so it's extremely complicated to, you know, manufacture your own insulin. I'm not saying it's impossible, but extremely difficult. It is a dilemma for us, especially for those of you that you know, have a medication that you need. You may be on a heart medication, congestive heart failure, you know, low blood pressure, high blood pressure, whatever it is. There's many other medications. And it creates a dilemma. If you have ideas on this that are better than mine, if you've thought of something or figured something out, please, please leave the comments so that others can see it. But, you know, do your best to try to get extras, you know. And again, probably the biggest part, it's not getting the prescription for it. It's being able to figure out how to pay for it, because insurance is only going to cover 90 days worth of medication at a time, every 90 days. So you're going to have to figure out how to pay for it. Some medications you can get generic, and they're not too terribly expensive. And usually if you buy 90-day supply or 180 days, the price kind of goes down. You get kind of that bulk discount. But there are still some that are just astronomically high. And what do you do? It's difficult. Work on your health. Try to figure out if it's something you can get off of. Look at natural alternatives. There are some, you know, for instance, I remember reading, and of course I've never taken the drug, so I haven't tested it on myself, but for instance, drugs like Prozac and Zoloft, like antidepressants, in China, they use the tree which grows around here. It's an imported tree, but it's growing everywhere. The mimosa tree, you know, those little pink-looking, cotton candy type flowers growing on them. That tree is used by Chinese herbalists as an alternative, natural alternative to drugs like Prozac and Zoloft. So there's just a little tip there. So there are alternatives at times to prescription medications, but not everything has an alternative. You're going to have to really do some research, and it's something to start planning. If you take prescription medications and you're not starting to create a plan of what to do about this, you need to start doing it, because even something that's not the end of the world as we know it, it wouldn't take much to at least cause a pause in like prescription manufacturing and delivering, transporting them to pharmacies and stuff like that. So to disrupt it, even if it came back after 6 months or a year or 2 years, it wouldn't take much to disrupt it for a while. And I know there's going to be those like, well, the first thing I do is I'm going to go rob the nearest pharmacy. Yeah, well, so will everyone else. And I have no doubt that if something big happened, if there was any government left, that's going to be one of those things I would say that they're going to start securing, is medications, pharmaceutical, pharmacy companies that manufacture pharmaceutical companies and pharmacies. That's going to be on high up their list if there's any, government left, any military law enforcement left. That's going to be high up on their list is to start securing those things. So don't think that you're just going to be able to run down to the vacated Walgreens and have your way with, all the medications they have. It's not going to work out like that. It's not TV. So start making your plan. Leave some comments if you have different ideas, because like I always say, mine aren't always absolute. It's just some thoughts. But definitely start considering what you can do, what is even possible for you to do when dealing with your prescription medications. All right. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.